Welcome! In an RShiny app, I am going to set up a table and add buttons to allow a user to export or copy the contents of the table. The table will contain a list of school names and the source of the data will be a GeoJSON file. Let's get started. I already have an RShiny app set up. In this app, I have a map which shows the location and catchment areas of different schools. I demonstrated how to do this in a separate video, and I will put a link to that video in this video's description. The data I will use in this project is the same data which I used in the map project. But you don't need to have watched that video to be able to follow along with this video, as I will revisit how to load the data. In RShiny, when you run an app, the data frames do not appear in the global environment. Therefore, to allow you to view the data, to aid with the follow along of this video, I will set up a separate R script and load the data into the global environment that way. If I head over now to my R script, as I will be using a GeoJSON file, I will use the regdal package to aid with the upload of the GeoJSON. Therefore, I use library to load in regdal. I will call my data frame academies, and into academies I feed read OGR, open brackets, then I head over to my data source. My data set contains a list of schools in Aberdeen in Scotland. I will put a link to my data source in the video's description, but if I scroll down, here under View API Resources, I click the drop-down list, and all I need to do is click the copy button next to GeoJSON. I now go back to my R script. I put double quote marks, and in between the quote marks I just paste my link. I will now run the code to see the data set. If I click on academies, I can see my data. If we head over to the data, if I click the drop down arrow next to the word data, there is an item called name, and this is the section I'm interested in because this section contains the names of the schools that I would like to extract. If we look up at the top next to data, we can see that it says it's a list, and as a data frame it contains 14 rows and 6 columns. That means we expect to see 14 schools listed when we extract our data. We can see the list at the moment simply by going across and clicking on this symbol here, which will result in some code appearing down in my console. If I run that code in the console, the list of academies appears. Okay, let's now get on with setting up our data frame for our table. So we go back to my test script in R. I am going to set up a separate data frame in which to hold the names of the schools. I will call the data frame academies names, so academies underscore names, and into that I need to tell it will be a data frame. So data dot frame, open brackets. Now all I need to do to extract the names is go back down to my console, and in the line of code that says academies at data and then the name, I just need to copy that and then put that inside my brackets. If I now run this line of code, in the global environment you can see a new data frame has been created, and it contains 14 observations, which is in line with expectations. If I click on this to see the list of names, it looks like our data frame has been successfully created. As you can see, the column header is not very helpful, therefore I will change its name. So back in my R script, I type call names bracket and the name of the data frame for which I would like to change a column name, which is Academy's name. And I need to feed in the new name of the column. I will call my column school, a single quote, then put the word school. Make sure that there's a closing single quote. I click run. Now if I view my data set again, we have school as the column name, so all looks good. What I will now do is copy my code across into my app. Please note that if you have already set up the map, this is exactly the same data set, so you will not need to copy lines 1 and lines 3. In my case, because I already have these 2 lines in my Shiny app, I won't copy them. I'll just copy my 2 additional rows. So Control C, back into my app, and then in my section called Gather Data, which is above the UI section, I will just paste in the code. Now I can create my data table. I could use a standard data table, which is like a static list, but I would like my table to be interactive. So I'm going to use the data tables package for my tables. So to do that, up in Add Packages, I've loaded in Library DT. I can now scroll down to the UI section of my app, and I would like the table to show underneath my map. So leaflet output is the reference to my map. In the section which I've headed up, Show Table, both the DT package and the Shiny package render data tables. And in this project, I want to make sure that it's always the data tables from the DT package which render. Therefore, when I write the code, I'll need to be explicit and tell the app to always go to the DT package when I call render data table. Therefore, I need to put in DT 2 colons, then data table output. Then I need to give my table a name, and I will just call my table Academy's table. So double quote marks, and in between quote marks I will say Academy's underscore table. After the closing bracket, I then need to put a comma. I now need to create the contents for the table. So if I scroll down to my server section, it does not matter in the server section where I create my data contents. So I will put it beneath the attribution which my data source has requested. So I will put output $, then the name of my table, which is Academy's underscore table. Remember, that's the name we gave it just up here in the UI section. Then I feed into this. And again, we need to explicitly state that we're using the DT package. So DT 2 colons, then render data table, open brackets, open curly brackets. I will put a few empty rows in between these 2 brackets to make the code more readable. Then I put DT 2 colons and say data table. Inside the brackets, I put the name of my data frame. And if we go back up to our gather data section, we called our data frame Academy's underscore names. So if we scroll back down to server, that is what goes in between our brackets here. So we put in academies underscore names. At this point, I'm going to run the app and see if it works. So click Run App, Save Selected. Looks good. I have my app opening, and if I scroll down, I have a table. My table defaults to show the first 10 entries, but you can click on the drop-down list and change the view. I also have the facility to change the order, so I can change it to alphabetical. I have the ability to search for a school. And down at the bottom of the page, we have the tabs to take us to the next page of entries. Everything looks good, so now all I need to do is add my buttons. Back in my RShiny app, in the server section, in the DT data table row, after academies names, I put a comma. Then to add the buttons, I type extensions equals single quote marks, buttons, comma, then options equals list, open brackets. I'm going to put my list on a new row to make it easier for you to see. We type DOM equals, then open single quote marks, and in my case I'm going to put in the following letters: B, L, F, R, T, I, P. Each letter represents an item, and you do not need to put all these items into your data table. This is what each letter stands for. B is for buttons, L is for length changing input control, F is for filtering input, R is for processing display element, T is for table, I is for table information summary, and P is for paginated control. I come outside my single quotes, put a comma, then I put in the buttons I would like to display. So I type in buttons equals, and because I've got more than one button, I need a list. So C brackets, single quotes marks, I want to show copy. So I write copy, come outside my single quotes, comma, then I want to show CSV, comma, Excel, comma, PDF, comma, and print. All I need to do now is run my app. Looks good. I will just scroll down to the table. We have all the buttons that we expected to see, and if you do a sense check by pressing the buttons, they should all now work. Please note though that if you press the buttons when it says show 10 entries, only 10 entries will appear in your download. Therefore, if you want more entries to appear in the download, remember to change the filter in the drop-down list first. If you liked this video, please give it a thumbs up, and if you would like to hear more from me, please click the subscribe button. Thanks for watching.